George, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Hey, glad you could be here. You're on a show called X on the Beach. What is that whole show about?
Yeah, so X on the Beach is a very out there, I'd call it out there dating show where they put 10 singles, 5 guys, 5 girls in a villa, and every time someone new enters, it's someone's ex. So it could be someone's ex of 10 years, or there were some circumstances on my series where it was one night stands, kind of stuff like that. And it's just to try and find love while your ex is lurking behind you at all times.
Wait, so how did the show's creators, like, how did they figure out who's your ex, who you had a one night stand with? Is that something that you kind of fill them in on in the beginning, or no?
Yeah, very loosely. So, like in the casting process, they'll kind of ask for guidance of who you've been more like in serious relationships with. And you can kind of give them like a little list of who, and then they just go from there. Although with my ex, I'm pretty certain I didn't mention him at all. So I don't know how, how they managed to find my ex.
Right. So what is that experience like trying to meet other people while your ex is just there?
A lot harder than I thought it'd be. For example, there was a girl in the villa that I was started to like and wanted to, get to know. But every time I went to speak to her and get to know her, I always felt awful or like really awkward because my ex is there. I'm like, oh, it's kind of disrespectful. Is it? Is it not? Am I here to rekindle? Am I here to find someone new? So it was something to get used to, which sounds really weird. Like it doesn't sound like it should be a sentence, but it is something you have to kind of get used to in that atmosphere.
How prevalent is like your ex in the show? Like, are they like you're sitting at a table with someone new having a conversation? They're just like sitting next to you. Like, how does that work?
Can be like that. So because you're just in a villa 24/7, you could. So I shared a bed with my ex, so we were in the same bedroom. So it was like if I ever went, I don't know, in the middle of the night and got up to go somewhere else, they knew I was obviously getting up to go somewhere else and do whatever. So yeah, they're there pretty. You live together, so it's like imagine yourself living with one of your exes while trying to meet someone new. 24/7.
Right.
It's a hard.
I'm curious to think like who even came up with that idea. Like, it would be a really good idea to have people try to meet new people and also just stick this person that might have been in this person's life for 5 years and just have them sit there and watch the whole thing.
That was how it was with some people. There were some people who had exes from like a very long time, and it was kind of like with my ex, it wasn't a serious relationship beforehand. It was more like getting to know each other. But some people in there, it was serious relationships.
Right. So were there any people that kind of were like really struggling to meet new people, like they were trying to go back to their ex and stuff like that?
Trying to think off the top of my head. There was, so I think there was an ex that came in. Well, there was an ex that came in that really liked his ex girlfriend, and she was very over it and looking for someone new. So I think he struggled with that. I didn't make it to the end of the show, so I don't know what went on after I left. But while I was there, like it was kind of sad to watch, but at the same time, it was kind of like you're in this situation too. There's other women in here. Maybe try and start getting over it yourself, but you don't know until you're in that person's shoes, really, or that situation.
Right. I mean, I would also think it's kind of like being in that process and on the show in general is kind of a self-growth process. Like, if you're not over your ex already, it's like that can, like, them, I guess, being there could be a step to being like, you might already be over them, or it's like you're not fully, and then you're trying to meet new people and you're like, all right, well, this person is here, but like, let me really ground myself and, figure out that, I'm trying to move on, or I guess certain people maybe figured, oh, I like should go back to my ex and we shouldn't have broke up or whatever. What was that like for you? Were you completely over your ex, or was there like a process of?
I wouldn't say I was like 100% over because like over my ex, they were always like in the back of my mind, but it was more of the situation of I know it sounds awful, but it wasn't anything I really until put in that situation where I was kind of like, oh, like I'm spending time with them, I'm enjoying doing this with them and that with them. Like it's once in a lifetime opportunity. So to be in that experience with someone who was in your life, once the show's over, speaking to new people, meeting new people, or whatever the case is, they don't know how that feels, but the person you can always go back and talk to is your ex that was in that situation with you. So that's always kind of a weird thing as well.
So, did you end up meeting someone new, or were you like friends with your ex after, or how did all that work?
Yeah, so after the show, me and my ex, we were seeing each other for quite a while, and then we decided to settle on as being like good friends. We saw that worked out better for us, and we're still very good friends to this day. We talk pretty much every day. Kind of been seeing new people, but nothing serious at all. I feel like in a way it's kind of too soon. I kind of want to give the dating a rest for a while after something like that.
I think so many of us in life are like always trying, like if we're not in a relationship, we're like trying to find a new partner. But I think it's just it's important to just take time to yourself, and whether it's to get over someone or just not be with someone for whether it's a few months or a year, or even 5 years for some people, of just honing in on yourself and, developing your passions and your hobbies and really working on your own crafts.
Oh yeah, like 100%. Like I've put my head straight down into CrossFit, so I do CrossFit, and everything I'm doing now has kind of gone back to that. And you see the improvements and progress you make when you're so focused on something in comparison when you've got other things going on, or you're searching for something, or you're more interested in what someone else is doing. When you focus on yourself, like the differences, even though the small steps, the differences are huge, and it is totally worth it. And I think everyone should always take time for themselves, whether they're in a relationship, they're single, or they're looking for someone, they're not looking for someone, because it's healthy. It's the healthy thing to do. You can't go through life depending or going after someone else. It's just not. It's not going to end well.
Right. And you also have to realize that it's not I don't think it's attractive to your partner or someone you're seeing if you give up all of your passions and all of your hobbies to spend time with them because I mean I was talking to a few women and they were telling me in interviews about how it's like if a guy I'm talking to someone and he usually goes to the gym all the time or he's usually doing this and he's like, "Oh, I'll skip this today. I'll hang out with you." They're like, well, I don't want you to skip that, like, that's your thing, like, we can hang out after that.
Yeah, yeah, fully. Like I totally agree with that. I think if you're willing to give up something that's in your routine so quick, why? Like, nothing is ever that important. So I fully agree and understand with that. I think I'm lucky. I don't think I'd skip
Right.
training though.
So what even got you into the casting process and the TV show in general?
Yeah, so my experience was very different, I think, to everyone else's on well, I don't know on my cast, but to a majority of people that do reality TV. I was on holiday, you guys call it vacation, in Greece. I have friends over there. So I was visiting friends in Greece, and I had a DM asking me to kind of like fill a form out, and I was like, yeah, okay. So I just did it, not thinking anything about it. I was quite drunk with my friends when I did it. So we were like, oh, this will be fun. Like just filling this application in. And the next day I had a lady from the casting team reach out to me and she's like, oh, do you want to have a Zoom call this night? And I was like, yeah, of course. The Zoom call ended up being over an hour, even though it was supposed to be like 20 minutes because we were just chatting and having fun. And then a couple of days later, I had my flights and I told I was going to be on the show. So I was like pretty much scouted a week before filming, which is really rare because a lot of reality TV, they have a saying like, hurry up and wait. So they'll cast people months and months and months and months prior before the show and have them all ready to go months later. Whereas I was literally 1 week done, everything, paperwork, contracts, doctor records, everything ready to go. And I was kind of like, okay. I wasn't going to say no. I was very out of shape at the time because I was like during bulk season and I'm like really small. So I was trying to put as much weight on as possible in like the most unhealthy ways. But I was like, I'm not going to skip the opportunity. I'll lose out on it. And so
Right. Yeah, that's like a really spontaneous opportunity. A week before the show starts, it's just like, all right, let's do it.
yeah, I was like, okay, sign me up.
Well, do you have an idea of why they reached out to you? Like, was there something in your profile or you have no idea?
And I honestly don't. I don't know if they'd seen me anywhere or if someone knew me prior and put me forward. I honestly have no idea. I know. So my series of the show was the first time they were introducing like people of the LGBT, and they wanted a bisexual male cast member on like the original 10. I don't know if they found that out somehow or figured out that I swing both ways or whatever. And they were kind of like, oh, let's see if he's interested. But yeah, it was just totally out the blue for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's really dope. That's a great thing. So I saw in your bio on Instagram, it says Libra in there, which is an astrology sign. Why'd you put that? Why'd you decide to put that in there?
I decided to put that in there because I get a lot of people asking me what my astrology sign is. So I'm like, it's kind of pushed in there. So, I know I share a birthday with Snoop Dogg. So I don't know what that means. We have the same birthday, me and Snoop Dogg. Kim Kardashian's also a Libra. Like, it's just because a lot of people ask me. I do like astrology. I think symbols and stuff look really pretty, which I know that's probably people are going to be like, oh, you're so like fake, blah, 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 I'm not into it. But yeah, it's just because a lot of people are into it and they ask me a lot about it and they ask me what my star sign is and stuff like that. So I was just like, yeah, I'm a Libra and I'll stick it. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I am too, but I haven't like I'm into like a lot of spirituality type stuff, but I've never really dived deep into the astrology stuff. So like when I try to ask people about it because I'm always interested in learning about it. It's just I don't really the stars align in this. I'm like I don't know, man.
and listen, like I go to meditation and stuff, and I'm really into that kind of thing. And then when it comes to that, I'm a bit like, whoa, okay, you're gonna have to give me a minute to digest all that.
Yeah, I mean, when I ask people about it who are like really knowledgeable about it, it's like it dives really deep. Like when you see all like the people on TikTok are like, "Oh, I'm this sign, and I can't date you because you're this sign or whatever," and it's like that's like so like surface level stuff, and of course some of it is both BS. But like some of the stuff like dives like really, really deep because I sometimes like I look up like, all right, what does it mean to be a Libra? And it's like, oh, you're carrying this and that. It's like, well, that could mean anyone, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of like dissuaded me a little bit from looking deeper into it because it's like, all right, this is just like surface level stuff. What is this? But when I talk to certain people who are really into it, it's like this goes really, really deep.
Oh yeah, totally. I get what you mean though. Like sometimes when I go to search it up and I'm like, oh, let's really see, and it'll be like one website will say the exact same thing for a Pisces that it'll say for a Libra on a different website, but then on a different website it says it for an Aries, and I'm kind of like, like where do I even start? But the people that are into it are like into it, and they know the shit as well. So like my mum's, she's like surface level into it, so she knows like some of the ins and outs, but she's got friends who are like really deep into it. And when they talk to me, I'm like, this is really interesting, but it's a lot. Like a lot.
Right. So well, you mentioned meditation. What got you to start that practice?
It wasn't long after the show. Just a friend recommended that I should try it. Only because I struggle with sleep, and it's not like I have any issues or stress or anything like that. I just think I'm quite active. So at the end of the day, I get in bed and I'm still like quite wide awake. So she was like, "Oh, you should try meditation with me." So we went along, and then I just really enjoyed it. So from with it, I go once a week. The thought of it at first, I was a bit like, "What's breathing exercise really gonna do?" But I really enjoy it. It's like it does clear your mind, as crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds like cliche, but it really does. For like that hour you're in the meditation class, you don't need to worry or think about anything else. It's just focusing on you and breathing and what you want to think about, because you can end up controlling what you want to talk about and think about in those sessions.
I think so many of us are so caught up in, the fast daily routines of being on our phone all the time that we never really we never take a minute or an hour or whatever the time frame is to just sit down with yourself and, analyze your thoughts and analyze yourself. And, I think it's a beautiful practice. And I think just whether it's meditation or just being analytical and just sitting with yourself for a few minutes, being able to do that is really important because, there's been a lot of times in my life and for a lot of other people too. It's like you can't like you're doing an activity or whatever, and the second you finish, like you have to pick up your phone in order to not be bored. And it's like life shouldn't be like that.
No, yeah, 100%. And like I've always been quite grateful that I'm like this. So when I go on vacation, I take a lot of photos, like city breaks and stuff like that, because I want the memory and be able to look back on them. But when I'm home, if I go out to the club with my friends, or I go to a concert with whoever, or I'm out shopping, or I'm out to eat, I'm not one of those people that takes a lot of photos of it and posts it all over social media, because I'm kind of like, I want to live in the moment. I don't want to wake up the next day like, oh, that was such a great night out. I remember taking a photo of this. I remember taking a photo of that. Do you know? I want to be, oh, I remember when this happened. This was really funny, because I'm never going to forget the things that stick out.
Right. I'm a musician. I play drums and I love going to concerts. So I go to concerts all the time. And I used to record a lot. It's like, oh, I love this song. I'll record it, right? And then I noticed myself for like 30 seconds to a minute watching the concert through my phone. And I'm like, and then I look up and I'm like, wait a second, I could just go on YouTube and watch someone else who puts this up. Let me like put this away and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, 100%. With stuff like that is crazy. Like you just fall into it without even realizing. Like I said, like Beyonce's on tour at the moment, and the amount of videos that's been on my TikTok. Had I gone to watch Beyonce, I wouldn't have filmed because she's right in front of me. And as soon as I went on TikTok, it was video after video after video of the concert. So it's like I can always go and look back for someone else that did it for me.
Exactly, exactly. What do you think the biggest struggle was just being on the show?
I think for me, the hardest thing was I don't want to say being in defense all the time, because it's not like I was getting in fights and things every day. But in a show like the show I was in, it's not the public who get to vote who goes. So it's kind of like Big Brother is in the US. It's the people you live with who votes who goes. So if you're a stronger personality and that you don't need a group of people behind you, that you're okay like being by yourself. You're always honest about how you feel. You're always saying what you think's right, what you think's wrong. Or if you just fall back and sit back and watch everyone else and don't really want to get involved in the drama or the fights, you're gonna kind of be excluded by the group, whether it's purposefully or not. And most of the time it isn't on purpose, it just that's the way it falls. And then when it comes to situations of who leaves, it's always those kind of people that it's easy to fall on and be like, okay. So the hardest thing really was knowing like I wasn't dependent on being in that big main group of being loud all the time and doing this and doing that. Because to be honest, when the show came out, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have like no scenes. I was so boring, I didn't do anything. And then a lot of the first half of it ended up being about me and my relationship. But I was like, that's probably because I wasn't so like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna be involved in this, I'm gonna be involved in that. I just stayed myself and stayed in the back. And I was like, if no one likes me, I'm not going to die tomorrow. Like, it's complete strange. Do you know? It's complete strangers. It was a pattern as well with people who were voted off from my show. I found the people that were true to themselves and didn't. Not to say that the people that made it to the end were all fake and horrible people and this and this and that, because they weren't. Some of the people that made it to the end were like amazing, but people that seemed to leave are the people were okay being by themselves. So the hardest thing was probably like knowing, okay, I'm probably not going to make it to the end. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense because it's like if all these people are in the group and they're kind of like, all right, I'm on this TV show, like I need to be involved in everything, right? It's like they're going to be doing all their stuff and you're going to be there sometimes, but you're okay with not being there 24/7. And so I guess when that process comes, they're like, all right, well, I've been doing everything with these 5 people. It's like, oh, well, George hasn't really been here the whole time. So it's like, all right, I guess we don't need him.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the same case with my ex and same case with some of the other people in there. But then watching it back, every time it's not with reality TV, there obviously needs to be fights and arguments. And I got some arguments with some people in there. That's just like life. That's what happens when you get put in a situation like that. So obviously my arguments go on, but the majority of the show isn't the big group argument or the big group drama. That's 20% of an 80% episode. So that 80% is focusing on the relationships. And I wasn't the only one in there, obviously. There was other people in relationships, but I was one of the relationships in there. So it was like that other 80% of the show was me, my ex, and this person and their ex. So we may have not done much in the villa and been, to be honest, to us, boring compared to what we're like in real life. But a lot of what happened in our story got shown because we just let it flow how it was supposed to. We didn't need to push for this or push for that or feel like we needed to do this, feel like we needed to do that.
And all in all, I mean, I think that probably promoted you to have a better time there. Like if you you were just being your authentic self, but if you tried to, I need to fit in, I need to act differently so that I could do this. It's like you wouldn't have even enjoyed yourself.
No, not at all. Not at all. I have no regrets from the show. There's nothing I'm embarrassed by from the show. I've always been able to laugh at myself. So like, there's like a screenshot of me and my friends took when I'm like crying in one of the scenes, and it's really unflattering, but I find it funny. Like we use it all the time in the group chat. Stuff like that. There's nothing I regret from the show, or there's nothing I look back on. Oh, I wish I'd done this, or oh, I wish I'd done that differently, because I just went with how I felt at the time and how I would react, whether there was cameras or not. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, you forget the cameras are there," or "It's really weird." Like after the first day, they're gone. But to me, I wasn't there for very long. I was there for a week. So to me, it was kind of like I always knew they were there, but I was like, I'm not going to act any different because there's a camera pointing at us while we're having a conversation.
So speaking on the camera aspect, were you ever camera shy at all? You're trying to have this conversation and you're just like, all right, well, this is like there.
I used to do media and film and radio and stuff in college, so the camera stuff didn't really bother me. Specific like heavy personal conversations, I was a bit like, this is more awkward and cringe to have to say these things out loud knowing it's going to be filmed than actually, oh, there's a camera there. The only thing that was a bit camera shy about was there was a camera in the toilet, or not in the toilet, but like facing the toilet, just so it could pick up conversations. And never would. I think they would turn it off when someone was in the toilet. But at first, like having a piss and turning around, and I'm like, "There's a camera right at me." That was a bit weird.
What was your absolute favorite thing about the whole experience?
That's a good question. I'm not going to say the experience as a whole because I feel like that's an easy answer. I know it sounds weird, but probably working with the crew behind the scenes because they were such fun people to work with. Like, I understand they have to do a job. They obviously treated it like a job. They were very professional, but like MTV as a network are so fun. Like everyone is so laid back. Everyone's so chill. You can go to any of them about anything. Like no judgment at all. They're always there to help you. So probably working with the crew, like having done like small bits and pieces through college, with other production teams or working on a production or being a part of it. Sometimes it can get draining. Like, oh, I can't wait for this day to be over. It's been so long. But like with them, like every day was fun. So I think working with a relaxed crew was probably the best part about the show.
That's probably one of the most important parts because if, on the flip side, if the crew wasn't, very down to earth, it's like, they're setting up all the I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but like, I'm sure they're setting up all these things around you and stuff, and it's like, they're ignoring you or whatever, and it's just kind of like, all right, well, I'm just kind of here.
Yeah, so I can imagine on shows like The Real World. I don't know if that's still a show anymore.
Maybe.
Shows like The Real World, Jersey Shore, Bad Girls Club, where they're quite intense shows. I can imagine that being a bit like if the crew was, I don't know, obviously what the crew are like on those shows, but if it wasn't a very nice crew, I can imagine that being a bit like, oh shit, like during the experience. And because I feel like you'd need someone to be able to talk to on those shows, they do get quite hostile. So I could imagine you'd need people to be able to talk to. And I could imagine if the crew didn't like you or did something to piss you off, it'd probably make the experience for you on those shows 100 times worse.
So on your show, I know you mentioned you didn't get into too many fights, but there are a few disagreements. What were those over?
One of them was we used to play like these little games. I mean, kids disco at times, but we'd play these games just to like pass the time. And one of them, one of the guys in there, he used to try and like stir drama every now and then. And I was friends with someone in the villa, and I think he was trying to stir drama between us two. And I was like, "Oh no, no, no!" But it was probably my fault. It came across quite rude to my friend, so it was more like a miscommunication there. We patched up and we were fine after like me and my friend. And then later on in the series, we ended up falling out again as well. Before I left, X laughing at me during a conversation over something. But like I've got no drama with anyone from the show now. I think mine was more just I wasn't gonna let anyone take the piss out and make me look stupid. Like I was always gonna defend myself. But I didn't go in there thinking, oh, I'm gonna argue with everyone, I'm gonna fight with everyone. To be honest, I think my show was lucky that I don't think there was really anyone that had that mindset, which was quite surprising. You always get that on a show like that. But no, there wasn't anything major. There was just more like miscommunications than anything that were pretty much nipped in the bud straight after.
That's probably pretty good because, yeah, like you just said, there are probably other shows that are like that where there's either it's just one person or a few people who are like really making an effort to have people argue with each other because in their eyes they're probably like, oh, it'll make the show more fun. Let me just like stew this up.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. There was one of the guys on there. I think he was like, "Oh, we need to make it good TV. We need to make it drama." But I think the bunch of people we were kind of like, "Nah." Like if I don't have a problem with this person, I'm not going to have a problem with them. There's no need to. I think it did get quite spicy after I left with some of the exes that came out. But while I was there, it was like a good bunch of people.
It's good that you had a pretty good experience overall. What do you think it would have been like if you stayed on and you experienced more of that, that whatever, more arguments or whatever it was?
I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that's not seen it. But I think with the situations that I know and I've kind of been told, obviously I can't judge because I wasn't there to know the full sides and stories. I think I probably would have got more involved for people who had less people on the back to kind of be like, lay off, don't all gang up on one person kind of thing, or don't treat someone a certain way just because they have feelings and stuff, like specific feelings towards someone else. I'd have used my voice more, but I wouldn't have like been like, come over here and we'll fight. I don't think it ever got to that level. I hope it wouldn't have gone to that level.
Right. So with the week in advance notice of you going on the show, was there any preparation? What was that week's time like?
um, so I got back from Greece. I went to work a shift at work, my first shift back from holiday, and that's when they rang me and told me. So I had to tell work. Work was super cool about it. They were like, "Yeah, okay, like chill, no worries." Got the time booked off from work, and then they wanted to get records because they need like a record of it for like your health. But in the UK at the moment, it's really hard to get a doctor's appointment after COVID and stuff like that. So I rang my local doctors and I was like, I need my medical record, my medical history, like ASAP. Like I'd be forever grateful if you can. And they were like, "Yep, we can get that done for you." And I was like, "And can I just get like a general routine check as well with like a report? I need that as well." They were like, "Yeah, you might have to wait like up to a month for that though." And I was like, "Can't really." So I explained why. They were like, "Okay, we'll try our best." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And they got back to me and they're like, "No, sorry, like we're not going to be able to." So I got back to the producers and I was like, "Look, here's my medical history. I can't get this done." So they this was like the weirdest experience in my life. They booked me a private like driver to take me to Manchester. So Manchester's like 45, half an hour away from me. Um, to this doctor's house, and this doctor lived in like I've never seen a house so big. Like, it was a mansion. Drove me to his house. He took me into his house. We did the routine checks. I was in there for like maybe 5 minutes. He was really, really nice guy as well. Um, and then they drove me back home, and they paid for the whole thing. So I got my records, and then just kind of threw clothes into a case without really looking at what I was putting in. And then when I got there, I was like, "What the fuck? Nothing I have. I'm gonna look stupid." Um, yeah, it was really cool. I didn't really have to prepare for much.
Right. So that was, the first, TV show that you've been on. Do you plan on or are thinking about trying to, do another one?
I'd always be open. So if they wanted me to do another show, I'd never say no. I know they do the challenge in the States. I feel like this is gonna sound really cocky, but I feel like I have a good chance at doing something like that only because I've done like when I was in high school I used to do running, I do CrossFit as well. So I feel like I have somewhat of an advantage to do that show. That would be fun. And in situations like that I can be competitive, but like a fun competitiveness. But it's like entertaining for me. So that would be fun. But it would just be whatever they ask for. I have had a lot of other reality shows reach out to me already, asking me if I'm interested. Um, and pretty much all of them have just been like, yep, 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 yep. Just let me know when you're ready. There was only one I said no to, which was I don't know if it's a show in the States. It's called Naked Attraction.
It sounds familiar.
It's like you go on the show and like you're completely naked, and they like apart from your head, and they like pick who they want to go on a date with from the body. And
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, no, I'll give that one I'll give. But other than that, I've been like, yeah, just let me know if you want to do anything.
Right. No, that's really cool that they've been able to reach out to you. So you mentioned CrossFit. What exactly is CrossFit?
Yeah, so it's just like your bodybuilding, your Olympic lifting, your cardio, all kind of in one. It's like functional movements are like high vary. So you can do running one day, you can do weightlifting one day. I started when I was around 17, 18. I'd never been into a gym before a day in my life, like ever. I was like really underweight. I could barely do anything. I walked into like my first CrossFit gym, and it was all huge CrossFit, and they were all so lovely to me and like just welcomed me like I'd been there for years. But I walked in and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? It's like if I leave, will they notice me? But yeah, I wouldn't go back. I'd recommend everyone give it a go if they're into like fitness and stuff or want to try something different. Um, it's like a family atmosphere in most CrossFit, well, majority of CrossFit gyms I've been to, so that's great.
Right. I mean, when I first started to go to the gym, I was like always a really skinny kid. So I was really insecure about like being really skinny. And I'm like, oh, people are going to look at me or whatever. But from being in the gym for, a long time now, it's like, you start to realize that, of course, there's always like with anywhere you go in life, there's going to be one or two people that might be irregular there and they're just not really the friendliest. But the majority of people at the gym, like, whether you're like really skinny or overweight, like, most people in the gym aren't looking at you, making fun of you. It's like everybody's in the gym, whether they want to lose weight, build muscle, whatever it is. People are in the gym to improve themselves. So it's like most people aren't going to look at you improving yourself and like, oh, look at him, he's fat. It's like, no, it's look at him, he's overweight, he's trying to change that.
Yep, that was like the thing I struggled with the most. I had that kind of mindset of because I was always really skinny as well. I was like, oh, if I go to the gym, everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck is he doing in here type thing. So I never went. But once I started going, like really quick, I was like, oh, people are more focused on themselves and what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. Like they don't care what you're doing, how you look, how you do it, as long as you're making an effort. And I think it needs to be a more recognized thing that most gyms are quite comfortable places. Like you said, it's life. You are always going to get one or two people that are unfriendly or a bit of a dick about stuff. But the majority of people in a gym, like you said, if they see you and you are overweight, for example, they're going to be like, good for them. Like, good for them for coming in and trying. If you're like, I'm still really skinny now, and people see me and they're like, good for him. He's coming in, he's trying his best. Like, he's doing what he's doing. Um, if you're in there and you are an absolute sculpted Greek god and you're a huge bodybuilder and you're trying to build your cardio, people are like, that's good him, his size moving around like that. Like people are always going to be impressed no matter how you look and think good for them.
Right. And it's like so many people like would be willing to help you. Like most people, if you're like you want to try a new exercise and you're confused about how to do it, and I don't know, maybe you've seen that guy over there who's done, you've seen him do it before. It's most people would have no issue like you going up to them and be like, hey, I'm trying this new exercise. Can you just watch me for a second to see if my form's right or whatever? And 99% of people are like, oh yeah, sure, let me see, blah blah blah, and they'll walk you through it.
Yeah, it's like a compliment almost if someone comes up to you and like trust you enough to be like, oh, can you show me how to do this, or can you tell me if this is right or wrong? Because they obviously think how you're doing it looks good. So I'd always take it as a compliment when people come and ask me like advice in CrossFit, which is rare. I'm always taken a bit aback. I'm like, wait, you sure you want me to? Like, I'm like, okay, like I will 100% always help everyone, but I'm like, thanks. Like I feel good about myself today now that you've asked.
Do you have any dating advice for people?
If you feel like you need to change something about yourself or lie, it's probably not worth it. It's probably not going to work out in the end. Always be comfortable with yourself. Don't ever change the way you are and feel uncomfortable when changing for someone else because it's probably not going to work. Um, and be open minded. If you like women, you like women. If you like men, you like men. If you like both, you like both. Just stick to that. Don't think, oh, obviously, if you're unsure, that's completely fine. I'm not saying you can't be unsure, but just stay with what you like. It doesn't matter if your friends are like, oh, I like girls that look like this. Why do you like girls that look like that? Because you do. Don't change it or do anything different. That's probably going to be the best results you're going to get dating wise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, authenticity is, the key. And it's like, that thing where it's like, maybe your friend looks at like your girlfriend or someone you're seeing, or, your boyfriend or someone you're seeing, and they're like, oh, I don't really find them attractive. It's like, okay, you're not me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember a time in my past where I had a girlfriend, and one of my friends came up to me and he's like, oh, so and so said that they didn't really find your girlfriend attractive. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. You're not dating her. You don't have to find her attractive.
You're like, okay, why do I need to know this information? And I
Right.
always find never be jealous or insecure. For example, had that guy had come over to you and be like, oh, you've been saying your girlfriend's really, really, really attractive. Just be like, yeah, I know she is. You should be happy. Be like, yeah, they are. And that's who I'm in a relationship with. Because most of the time it
Right.
is.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like my reaction. I never, everyone's different, but I don't really understand the the people, and I haven't been in this experience, but from hearing people who were either in the experience or knew someone who was, of like, I don't know, maybe there's a bunch of people at a party and someone like ends up talking to a girl, but obviously like she was by herself at that moment, so it's like they didn't my friend or whoever it was didn't know that she had a boyfriend or whatever, and then the boyfriend comes over and is like, oh, what are you doing? Can't believe, and they start to try to start a fight and everything, and I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, just come over and be like, hey, this is my girl, whatever, and then most of the time the guy will be like, oh, okay, I didn't know, whatever.
It's more down to insecurity that I think. If you're having to act like that as well, and to be honest, it probably makes the girlfriend in that situation feel uncomfortable because can she like whenever she goes out, does she feel like she could have basic conversations with people now without it being a drama on her end, whether he was upset with her or not? It sounds like he wasn't. It sounds like he's upset with the guy, but she's gonna have in her head, oh, like, is this gonna cause a scene or whatever? Just treat everyone with respect and how you'd like to be treated, and it'll probably and stick with what you like, and it'll probably work.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is a day in the life of George look like?
Depends if I'm in work or not. So if I'm off work, probably get up, do some housework, go to the gym, eat, chill out for a bit, go back to the gym, and go to sleep. It's pretty basic. And then if I'm in work, skip the housework and go to work instead. On the weekends, I like to go out and chill with friends. I'm not really like a big drinker, usually because when I drink, I take it too far. But, go out and chill and just the general stuff. I don't do anything like too crazy. I think it was like on the show, for example, I was genuinely just someone plucked from day to day life and thrown into that situation where some of the people on my show had done other reality TV shows or were online influencers, or there was someone that was like a DJ and toured all over the place, and I was kind of like, no, I'm just from a small town that just sticks to everyday life. So nothing too interesting.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a great experience, nonetheless.
Well, yeah, definitely. I would never take it back, and like I said, I'd do it again tomorrow if they asked. Um,
Right.
Even on a week's notice, I'd do it probably more, but I'd definitely do it at last notice as well. Um, I'd recommend it to anyone as well. If you're wanting to do TV, give it a go, and if it's not for you, at least you can say you've done it. If it is for you, try and carry on in that world and industry. It's hard to get into. Um, once you've done it, it's hard to stay into it and get into more. Um, but just give it a go and always have boundaries. If you feel uncomfortable, just tell them, and 9 times out of 10, be like, okay, that's fine. Well, on my show, it was 10 times out of 10. If I ever felt uncomfortable, I didn't want to do anything, I always could voice it, and they were like, okay, that's fine, no issue. Um, because at the end of the day, they're still people and they'll understand. Um, I mean, there is some people who are quite cruel out there, but in TV production, they'll understand.
Right. Well, it's great that you had, that overall incredible experience. George, I really appreciate you coming on today.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me as well. It was a good chat. It's gone by really fast.
Yeah. Where can people check you out?
Yeah, so I don't have too much social media. I'm on Instagram quite frequently. That's George K241, and I'm on Twitter as well under the same username. I don't really use Twitter much though. And if you ever want to DM me on Instagram, I always do try my best to reply. I say that like I get loads of messages. I don't get a lot of messages at all, but sometimes it goes into my message requests if we're not following each other, so I do miss them. But I try my best to get back in touch. Yeah, and interact back. I don't really use much social media, like I said, so I'm not really on anything else. But Instagram's probably the best place to catch me.
All right. Sounds good. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.